Welcome back to Niners Nightly. Hope everybody's having a great day. Joining us on the UMA guest line is one of our favorites. Guy's been covering the Raiders for a long time. But before that, he covered the Niners and the Warriors, and now he's back covering the Niners. Senior writer for The Athletic. Dave Lombardi moved over to the Standard. Matt Barrows needed a tag team partner, and The Athletic said, let's get Vic Tafer. Let's bust the budget and get Vic Tafer. And there he is. Vic, how are you? And he's with us on KNBR. Vic, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good, bud. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Welcome back. Covering the Raiders and then jumping over to cover the Niners. I mean, that right there, you could almost probably, the premise almost sounds like the good premise for a book.
Yeah, something different, man. 15 years covering the Raiders is a long time. A lot of cool, interesting stories happen. So, yeah, so I'm ready to try something different.
Well, I thought your piece on Jake Moody was fantastic, and why don't you get into it with us a little bit, Vic, as far as Jake Moody? I mean, we all kind of know that, he had 2 seasons last year. He was 13-14 and looked great, and then the Week 5 game to Arizona, and he almost looked like a Buster Posey, Scott Cousins kind of a thing, where his leg get kind of trapped underneath him, and only because it was grass did he not just break the ankle. Instead, he's just badly sprained it, but he missed the next 3 games. Then the Niners may have rushed him back. He clearly wasn't in rhythm. And the rest of the year was just a train wreck, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Now there's Greg Joseph, and people kind of wondering if Moody's the guy, new special teams coach. But you did a great job breaking down kind of he's going back to the mechanics of the actual kick to try to look for improvement. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think if you're Moody, it'd be easy to say, hey, you know what, I was great in college, high draft pick. I got hurt, and that's why I had problems. But for him, he wants to make sure he's good. So he's changing his approach. He went from a 3-step to a 2-step approach. So it's going to maybe take a couple yards away from distance, but hopefully it improves his accuracy. That's what he's hoping for. And so far he likes results. So I think it's a good sign. He's been proactive, trying to get back to where he was in college when he was a dominant kicker.
It's funny. One of the things I thought was interesting, I don't know, I'm a golfer. I'm not a good golfer, but I golf. And, one of the things is that he mentioned was that taking out the extra step has given him more time to kind of look at the ball. How much do you think that extra kind of glance, that extra whatever nanosecond of focusing visually on the ball as you're walking up to it, because it's only a 2-step approach as opposed to a 3-step approach? How much do you think maybe just keeping your eye on the ball maybe is helping him?
Yeah, I think it can't hurt. I think I'm ideally not looking around too much, but I think clearly he's trying to get his mind right, and I think he's going to look at the ball a little longer and maybe get a little more comfortable. And for him, it's all about getting back in stride. Last year he mentioned he was in great rhythm, and he got hurt, and he never could find his rhythm again. So I think he's trying to get back in a good spot where obviously kicking is all about confidence, and he had an injury last year, and I'm sure he said it didn't affect his confidence, but I'm sure he was come down on himself a little bit. So you want to get back into good mechanics, get into a good pattern, and kind of go from there.
I thought it was also kind of interesting that part of your piece was that he reached out to Robbie Gould.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the history there is. I should have asked him for more background. But, yeah, former Niners kicker who obviously has been in the league for a long time. So I think he had thought about making a change years ago and never quite did it because he was doing so well. I think a lot of guys do it. When they go to the NFL, they kind of shorten it up a little bit. But it was working for him, so it didn't change. So I think he was thinking about this in the offseason about making a move. He wanted to make sure he wasn't alone. So he asked for some advice from his kicking coach, also from Robbie Gould, and they said, yeah, I think it's good for you, so give it a shot. And so far, he's done it for about, 2 months, and so far, so good.
Jake Moody's only the second kicker drafted in the first 3 rounds in the last 19 years. That little nugget was in this article as well. That, to me, is – what do you think? I mean, do you have a philosophy on this? I know, you covered the Raiders. Al Davis, whatever year it was, took Sebastian Janikowski in the first round, and – the guy had almost a 20-year career. How do you feel about? I mean, they obviously Al drafted Ray Guy. How do you feel about kickers and punters? Using either day 2 or day 3 draft choices on them.
Kickers especially, I'm not sure it's great value because it seems like nowadays you're going to go off the street and kicking the 60-yarder. So I think the game is, kicking game has gotten so much farther than it used to be. So, but again, he was a dominant guy in college. I liked his mental toughness. He didn't miss. He predicted all kinds of weather. So I guess you convince yourself he's the guy, you do it. But I would think you could probably wait. And, again, kickers to me seems like a guy that got off the street and he's kicking bombs. So, yeah, we'll see how this one turns out.
You know, it's interesting, too. They think John Weeks may be part of this equation. He's the new long snapper. Boyer was quoted as saying adding Weeks is a big deal for Moody. The total operation being smooth and everything like that will certainly help the kid for sure. You know, I mean, it almost sounds like they're framing Tabor Pepper a little bit. How much do you think the long snapper plays a role in this thing?
Yeah, it can't hurt. I guess this guy's been around for a long time, like 16 years, I want to say, in the league. So clearly he's developed a rapport with kickers and coaches who have confidence in him. So I think it's another notch in your belt if you have confidence that snap will always be in the right spot and you have your approach is working for you, and then you get back into good patterns. So I think it's interesting because Warriors are going to overhaul the whole team's unit, it seems like, but maybe Moody's the one guy that can stick.
You know, the Niners bring in Greg Joseph, and, you know, I thought Joseph was a pretty good kicker not that long ago. I'm a little surprised to find out that he's played for 6 teams in 6 seasons. He's a 116 for 141 in his career. He had a pretty good little run with the Vikings. What's your sense of the Moody-Joseph competition? Because, I don't know, my sense of it, maybe nobody's said this directly, but I just get the feeling that this is Jake Moody's job and that Joseph would really, or either Moody would have to really fall on his face or Joseph would have to really show that he's dramatically superior to win it. That's just my sense of it. But what's your sense of it? Do you think Moody's going to win this job? Do you think Joseph's going to win this job? Do you think Joseph's going to be given a legit opportunity, or do you think the Niners are still set on Moody?
No, I agree with you in the sense that I think that you get Joseph to kind of set a bar. Like you have, you don't want to give Moody a job just because he's the guy you picked high and because whatever he thinks he's turned it around. You want to make sure he's established himself as being back to that guy he was. So you get Joseph set a bar. This guy's good. He's not great. Otherwise, he'd be on a team. He wouldn't be bouncing around. But he's good. He's a solid kicker. So you got to be better than this to kind of keep your job. And that makes sense to me. You don't give the guy anything, but also don't make it too hard to prove that he's the guy you thought he was back 2 years ago.
Give me a thought or two on OTAs. We'll be there tomorrow for OTAs. The Niners are entering the final phase of the offseason program. And you know, this is basically it. They have this, then the mandatory minicamp, and then they kind of shut it down until training camp. What are you eager to see in these OTAs?
I guess I saw the rookie Pearsall. I think he's definitely got a guy who's kind of on the spot a little bit. There's really not anyone established at receiver. You know, Ayuk being out for a while longer, so he can kind of take a next step and kind of show he's ready for that responsibility. Look at the 5 top draft picks on defense. They got to come in and make a name for themselves and kind of show they can earn a spot right away, and that gives this team hope for this year as far as getting back in the playoff contention. So look at the 5 rookies on defense and the receivers.
You know, the other question I would have is just, you look at this, there's a couple spots that are kind of up for grabs. Like, do we have any indication, Vic, who's going to be the starter at left guard when they kind of hit the field tomorrow, or who potentially could be the starter with Malik Mustafa out at safety opposite Jair Brown? Who's your guess of who maybe starts at those 2 spots?
Yeah, they don't have one. You got me. I think it's wide open. I think that's why they got these rookies in the draft. They got I can't think of my guy's name. The guy from Kansas, the
Marcus Siegel,
corner they drafted. Yeah, I think ideally Siegel steps up, and in the absence of Mustafa. But again, if they're not, they'll have some veteran guys who are on the roster. So I think it's wide open. I think a lot of spots are wide open, which is kind of good. I think it's a good thing where there's competition and kind of some hunger, and some enthusiasm this time of year.
I don't know how you viewed Brock Purdy from afar, but what did you think of him? What did you think of him then, and now what do you think of him now that you've been around this team? I saw a number today that the Niners without Brock Purdy in 3 games have been outscored 116-41, and needless to say, they're 0-3. What was your thoughts when you were covering the Raiders when you're watching Purdy from afar? Were you a believer or not so much?
No, I think believer might be strong, but I think that he showed why you have confidence in him. I think talk to coaches who went against him and players. You watch the film and it shows up. He makes the right reads. He makes the accurate throws in tight windows. He's got some poise to him. He can actually get out and move a little bit. If in trouble, make a play on the run. So these are all things as a young quarterback. I think they'll look at the contract and they want to rank him like, is he a top 10 guy? Is he a top 12 guy? Is he overpaid? But to me, you're paying for the floor, right? He's still really, really young. He's already pretty good, and most guys will hit their stride till year 5 or year 6. So I think you're paying for his floor, and that's why I think it's not a bad deal.
Yeah. You covered the Raiders for so many years. Is the axis different, Niners and Raiders, or is it pretty much the same?
That's early to tell. Ask me in a couple of weeks. We'll see how OTAs go. The Raiders were tight. Obviously, that's kind of the Al Davis style, and we got the guys from the Patriots came in, McDaniels, and they're also kind of a little paranoid. So, I'm very curious to see how it goes with the access and what I can do as far as locker room and getting guys one-on-one. What do
you think we should expect? What's a reasonable expectation, Vic, for CMC? He 1,675 yards less last year than what he had in 2023. He says he feels good, but he hasn't played football in a while. You could make an argument that the entire season kind of hinges on this guy. I mean, maybe not the whole season, but he's a huge component. What's your best guess? What kind of year do you think? You think CMC is going to be more injuries and, he had 348 scrimmage yards this year, or do you think this is going to be a full bounce back year and he's going to reestablish himself?
Yeah, you hope there's no injuries. You hope he doesn't kind of fall back into that pattern. But I think for him, he was such a special guy in his prime that you don't need that guy back. If you can get like 75% of that guy or 80% of that guy back, and you're really in good shape. So I think you don't have goals that are unrealistic, but I think he can be, if he's fully healthy, which is what everyone says he is, he can be a difference maker, both running the ball and catching the ball. And I think he gives the rest of the offense a lot of confidence, a lot of different things they can do with him on the field, different wrinkles they can use. So I just think it's exciting for players and teammates and coaches. So I think it'll be good, but I don't want to say great. But I think good's good enough, I think, if he's back to 80%.
It's hard to kind of understand where the Niners are this year because on one hand, they got rid of a lot of veterans and they kind of hit a reset on their roster. But then you look at the team and you're like, well, wait a second. CMC ain't getting any younger. Trent Williams is absolutely in the prime of his career. Same with Bosa, same with Kittle, same with Warner. You could argue that all these guys are all, potential borderline Hall of Fame players that are all in the kind of the twilight. Niners have not been able to get a Super Bowl out of this mix, out of this run. What do you think? I mean, what kind of year is this going to be? I mean, the 49ers have 50 some odd $50 million in available cap room, and I'm reading guys like Trey Hendrickson are out there. If I were the Niners, I mean, I don't know what the price tag would be as far as draft pick compensation. Somebody said, I saw a trade the other day, was Hendrickson and a 6th to the Niners for their second round pick and 2 4ths. I mean, the 49ers could absolutely use this player. Do you think they've gotten cold feet because of the Hargrave expenditure and they just don't want to spend on this kind of a player? Or do you think the 49ers, I would be interested in Trey Hendrickson just as a block, just to keep him from the Rams, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Lions. I'd be interested in him opposite Bosa because I think he would really help Collins and West inside and take some pressure off the young DBs. What do you think? Trey Hendrickson wants out. Cincinnati granted him permission to seek a trade back in March. He's still there. It's almost June. Is John Lynch going to call Cincinnati about Trey Hendrickson? Or if they're sitting it out, why are they sitting it out? Why, with all these veteran players in their final years, would they go? Why would they not spend 20% of their cap, which they have available to them, and leave themselves short? What do you think?
Well, it'd be a big-time move for sure. I don't know if they're trying to, wait and see what the price is going to be. And they also drafted the guy in the first round who they hope can be the guy on the other end of Bosa. So I think they're looking at, again, the young guys making an impact. I think they have overspent in the past. They have had some problems with that. But I think now you look at the guys they've locked up, these 3 guys lately, Purdy, Kittle, and Warner. Still got Bosa for a while, Trent Williams. They've got guys, I think it's a 2-year window in my mind. We're looking at this window to try and get back to where we were a year ago, Super Bowl. And if Trey can help you do that and the price is right, kind of hurt yourself long term, definitely take a look at it. But I'm sure other teams in this league who are also going to be in on that, and I can't imagine the price will be cheap by any means. So I think you got to be careful. But I'm I think they're in a good spot. I think they have a good mix of veteran guys. Their nucleus is still intact. They got these guys in the draft who are going to be huge. If they're good, then they're in really good shape. If not, then they'll be a little longer. But it seems like they're good picks. Seems like in talking to people and watching them and hearing all the reports, they've done well, those guys on defense, the first 5 picks. So I think they're in a good spot. I think they have an easy schedule. That's a huge factor this year. So I think they can probably get back to the playoffs this year.
Hey, last one on your way out the door. What'd you think of the moves today? I mean, the Niners waived Wishnowsky, signed Thomas Morstead. I don't know if that's an indication that Mitch's back is not responding. I know he had knee issues as well. What'd you think of that little trade? Wishnowsky was a 4th-round pick. Morstead is a 16-year vet. Then the other move today, the Niners cut a linebacker, Deshaun White, and they picked up Chaz Surratt, who, former quarterback, but obviously Robert Saleh, one of Saleh's favorites going back to the Jets. And any thought on those 2 moves today?
Not much. We mentioned earlier about Brant Boyer. I think, especially in this league, teams coaches definitely love their guys they can rely on, guys who've been in the wars with, and they've proven they can know what they're thinking at all times. There's definitely a silent connection. So I think you see him bringing in 4 or 5 guys he knows really well, and Moody's the one guy who might be the last guy standing. So I think it's more about comfort and kind of bringing his guys in, make sure he wants to have impact this year on teams. And I think those guys can do that ideally.
Vic, awesome, man. Thanks for jumping on KNBR. We'll see you tomorrow down in Santa Clara. Welcome to Niner coverage this year. We're looking forward to reading you in The Athletic. Thanks for jumping on the leader.
All right, bud. Appreciate it.
Yep, Vic Tafer covers the Niners. Longtime Raider beat writer, moving over to the Niners, covering the Niners. Leaves the dark side. Oh, no, I'm just joking. But Vic's good, and he's an outstanding reporter. And if you haven't gotten a chance, read his breakdown on Jake Moody, an extensive piece on how Moody kind of said, you know what, I'm going from a 3-step kick to a 2-step kick. I may lose, a little bit of distance, but I think I'm going to gain some accuracy. And at the end of the day, does anybody ever go, wow, the kicker kicked the ball 65 yards. Yeah, he missed. He was off by, 5 yards, but wow, the leg strength. It's like, no, nobody cares. They only care if it goes through the uprights. So I don't care if you kick it hard or kick it soft. I don't care if you lose a yard or 2 of distance. It's not about distance. It's about accuracy, and it's about making field goals. And if you can take a little off, it's no different than your driver, right? You take a little off, keep it in the fairway, as opposed to just grip it and rip it, and you might hit the ball 15 yards past your buddy, or you may wind up with a power fade in the middle of somebody else's fairway, 2 fairways away. So maybe take a little off your swing, keep it in the fairway. Maybe that's the approach that they're thinking with this one. All right, let's do this. Let's take a timeout. Up next, we're going to talk a little bit about what I expect and hope to see tomorrow.